Today it's time for a best of 5 series of top-level StarCraft 2. Two of the very best players in the entire world are facing off against each other in a best of 5 series that was played at an offline stage. This particular best of 5 was played during the RSL. So spotting right here in the top left-hand corner of game number 1, I believe that this map, it's only played in the RSL. I believe it's called Botanical, made by Avex. I think so. Anyways, spotting right here in the top left, we have SHIN. Down in the bottom right, playing in red, playing with the Terran, we have Kijkwijzer. Was I right? Yes! I was flexing my caster muscles right there for just a little bit. It is indeed the map Botanical. I quite like this map, honestly. It's a cool one. SHIN actually played that phenomenal game against Maru on this exact same map during the 3rd season of the RSL. This was, I think, one of the most painful games that SHIN has ever played. He probably would not really like to be reminded of that match. Because effectively what happened is he was winning the entire way through until he wasn't. Yeah, he was basically dominating and then he didn't. Honestly, highly recommend, though, that you should go check it out. Because that was a really fun series. Just across the board, a beauty. Let's just say that this high ground expansion right over here, it's a bit of an oddball. Normally we don't see, I guess this is the 4th base, maybe the 5th, but normally we don't have a forward expansion on a high ground like this. So there's a little ramp over here, there's a ramp over there too. Let's just say that Terran Mech can quite reliably cover all of the space required. Anyways. It's going to be a Terran player here, of course, but somebody who usually is a little bit more predictable. I think SHIN has a lot of range in his play. Like, he can do a bit of everything. Usually quite macro-focused. Kijkwijzer, at least most of the time, he prefers playing the styles that are reasonably predictable. Kind of like, say, for example, for Protoss, we have players like Showtime, players like Classic. They go for strats that are reasonably predictable. And in my mind, Kijkwijzer really is much the same way, but then, of course, for Terran. Now, for a long time, he did have a weaker Terran versus Zerg, but these days, his TVZ is absolutely monstrous. He won the majority, though, of the, well, notable wins that he's had against Protoss over the years. But over the last, maybe 3 years or so, 2-3 years, Kijkwijzer really has been working at his TVZ. And at this point, he is considered one of the very best, but he doesn't really open up too spicy most of the time. It's very different than what we've been seeing from Maru lately. Maru's Terran versus Zerg is looking absolutely monstrous, but he is barely making 3rd command centers. Maru keeps on sending SCVs to the other side of the map, and he keeps on going all in. Not really the style that Kijkwijzer is favoring most of the time. So this is a triple command center. Oh, a 2-1-1. A 3-1-1? Alright. No, a 2-1-1 for the time being. A little bit odd, though. Normally you end up going for a starport rather than a second barracks at this point in the game. So this will still start off with Hellions. It's likely still going to force out at least a little bit of anti-air defense for SHIN. Because normally that sort of thing is followed. Ooh, we have a very quick lair here, too. Not spotted by Kijkwijzer. Normally this sort of thing is followed with Banshees, maybe Liberators, or something along those lines, but this is going to be, well, a bunch of Hellions early on. He's proudly showing them to the Overlord on purpose. He wants the Zerg player to see the Hellions at this point. And then he's gonna go for a very quick Stimpack instead. Now, I think one of the reasons why we end up going for the lair here so early on is to maybe go up to like a, yeah, it has to be a Spire. SHIN is already adding on the gases in both the main base as well as the natural. Normally, you only sit on a single one. 3rd hatchery is, pretty late. So, do we go for a Baneling Nest at all, or do we just save it all up? Do we go Baneling Nest? Do we go Evo Chambers? Or do we just go straight Spire and then just straight Mass Muta? Only time will tell. But I wonder how this lines up against somebody going for very, very quick combat drugs on those Marines. Either way, there it is. Spire. Not even 4.5 minutes into the game, already fired up. There's the safety Spore Crawler. 4.5 minutes into the game. No Spore Crawler actually in the natural expansion. What we do have is a Baneling Nest. Overseer Scout. Or maybe it's going to be joining with the Queens over here. Who knows? I think it actually is going to be used defensively, judging by the rally point. SHIN, of course, still playing with the Diva announcer, in case you heard that squeaky voice. Anyway, this is going to be A lot of mutas early on. But my question is mostly, what in the world do you do against 2 Medevacs full of Marines? I mean, obviously, if you can snipe the Medevacs before they unload, this could work out amazingly for Cure. Or for SHIN, rather. But I think across the board, this should be better for our Terran. A lot of Zerglings coming up. Notice, by the way, that this is a 16 Marine drop that started off with a couple of Hellions and a very fast 3rd command center. And he still hits at 5.5 minutes of in-game time. We used to see this strategy from Terran with straight 16 Marines and then 2 Medevacs and Stimpak without the 3rd base. And it would hit at about, maybe 520 or so, 510. Kind of impressive how much value has been gained over the years for Terrans in the early game. But mutas are coming. Banelings were already made. But with good micro, Cure can get a lot of value out of this. Still, he's targeting them down. All the Banelings do indeed get destroyed. Looks like there is enough firepower here, though, for the Zerg. But the big muta surprise? Well, I guess it is no longer really going to be a special treat for the Terran. But no, none of the mutas actually died here, so that's convenient. Now the Zergling muta counterattack could be big. There is a single siege tank up on the high ground trying to wait. Okay, is SHIN here? He's trying to wait for the perfect moment to engage, and apparently this is when we pull the trigger. He wants to jump not just on the Marines, but then also onto the siege tank itself, and that would leave the 3rd base wide open. Brilliant move here by SHIN. You love to see it. Zerglings, of course, can take care of that missile turret quite nicely. Reinforcing Marines will be showing up, but I don't think this is gonna be a base that you can really save here. A couple of SCVs also get stuck now. They've been rallied down to the 3rd base, but with the ramp lifted, not much he can really do. Reinforcing Marines, though, are popping out of the barracks, and I think it will just barely be enough. 5 mutas have died. 3rd base is gonna have to go to the high ground. Honestly, it's a little bit late. I think it's okay, though, with Vikings and mutas being produced. But this is not the early game that Cure was hoping for. Okay. Now, in order to play this style, right, SHIN did slow himself down for a bit, too. Double upgrades only just now begin, whereas they're already finishing for the Terran player on the other side of the map. Bailing speed has been delayed. +1 air weapons is relatively late as well. All of this is manageable, though, for SHIN, because as long as he keeps the pressure up, he will be finishing those upgrades up eventually, right? As long as he gets Bailing speed done at the bare minimum. Attacks from the Terran will be much more holdable. Marines trying to get a bit of an interception, but I think it's been scouted. 1 muta on the rally point there also does get sniped, but not a bad spot. 4 additional workers. Well, they end up going down. Okay. So what do you do right now here as the Terran? What's the best thing you can go for? Well, missile turrets should keep your base reasonably safe. The question is mostly, how many mutas are there going to be? You can expect a lot of them, but likewise, Terrans could also be expecting a very quick transition to hive tech. Keeping the pressure up is a nice way to force the Zerg player to keep showing their hand. Can you reliably go into an Atrax from here? Do you go into a 4th command center, a 2nd factory from here? Do you try to just play the macro game? It's not such an easy call, but he does have 1-1 done, so he figured he's gonna test the waters. He now spots, though, that Centrifugal Hooks is done for the Banelings, and that will make life a little bit easier for the Zerg, but not a lot of creep here. Obviously, the amount of queens available early on was lower. Yeah, and that means that the lack of creep spread is gonna open the opportunity up to kill a base. So Cure does strike back, and I think that's about as good as he can hope for. 2nd factory, by the way, was made. I'm expecting a 4th command center here in a moment. Basically, as soon as he finds the resources for it. I love the Vikings, by the way. Normally, we don't see Vikings against this sort of thing, but they are really nice for zoning. Okay. Now, SHIN's still with a very nice supply advantage. But what exactly can he do with it, right? So we could obviously go for a full-on attack to the other side of the map. There's the 4th command center, by the way. Ooh. What did he just kill? Did he just kill one of his own tanks? Sorry, I just backed up a little bit. What just died for Terran? I think it's a tank. Yeah, wow. That's crazy. Yeah, so don't, if you're taking notes, don't kill your own units. Generally speaking, bad strategy. Now look, maybe you're gonna be the hippest and the best pro gamer in like 2030, but I highly doubt that killing your own units is the way to go. But hey, what do I know? What are the downsides of playing at a million APM? Maybe Cure believes in blood sacrifice, you know? He's a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't really say too much. Usually he's just smiling and he's just calmly collecting tournament wins, but maybe he believes that blood rituals like the sacrifice need to be made from time to time to boost morale. +2/+2 is going to finish though for Cure, and that's going to be a nice moment to attack. Problem is, you need every tank you can get. And I wonder if killing that one tank, I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I wonder if that's going to slow everything down a bunch. Yeah, I guess trust in Cure doesn't go up, but obedience does. If you're a Marine right now, or even worse, if you're a tank in Cure's army, gotta be cautious. +3/+3 right now coming up for Cure, who is just gonna chill on 4 bases. He's not gonna go for the high ground that I suspected. Instead, he wants to go for the one over here. We'll probably see that one a little bit later on if enough time goes by. SHIN has been flying his little flippy flappies all over the map, but what he's been mostly working on is expanding all over the place. So he did already take the high ground base. He's now going into a hive. +2 flyer attacks is coming up as well for the Zerg player. And while he's trying his best to keep this Terran player busy, both players know that the real game they're playing is macro. Double expansion as well, by the way, at this point in time. We're lacking a little bit of creep over in this area. Brenda! Boop! Brenda! Right over there! Brenda, hey! Okay, well, maybe she'll get to it in a moment. Ghost Academy right now, though, for Cure. And as we've already discussed many times over the last few months, ghosts are really good. Yeah. I think maybe the ghost is a little bit too good. Anyways, that's maybe why we're seeing SHIN push up to this high ground as well a little bit before that transition really comes into full swing. With the latest update to the game, they made the Ghost 2 supply again, and they buffed its HP as well by 25. They did make the unit light, but across the board, it's a very significant and noticeable buff in the late game for Terran, so it's encouraging a little bit more of this passive approach, and I wonder if that's the reason why we're seeing Cure decide to relax a little bit more in this particular game. Here comes the Swarm, though, but there's so many, well, Widow Mines set up already. Yeah. No, I don't think you're going to be able to do too much about this, SHIN. Instead, what we have is Ultras. Ultras, 3/3, Burrow. He's getting effectively everything that he's got. I think the new strategy, right? Or everything that he wants. I think the new strategy here for SHIN is to try and almost like soft contain his opponent of 4 bases. He's got way more money in the bank. The question is it possible to really contain a Terran on this particular map? Because already the 5th is being pushed for. And 5-base Terran economy is more than enough to go into that dreaded mass ghost, mass liberator approach, which is what we see the Terran player cooking up right here. The additional command centers are coming up, and of course, with the command centers finishing. Oh, we do have the Banelings now rolling through. He's trying to deny it. It's going to be an expensive denial. But I guess as long as it is one, that's all he really cares about. Council on the Planetary Fortress. I think you just landed again. Try again. Yeah, may as well. Just build it up another time. Immediately, we do get a 22 and then 7 Ultralisk reinforcement. 22 additional Banelings here for the Zerg, but the Ultras here are the most notable thing. The problem is, though, those Ultras are going to be a while until chitinous plating is done. And I don't know, is SHIN going to commit before that point? Okay, another liftoff, fair enough. Mutas are also working away at that orbital command right now, or at the command center itself. I don't think there's enough firepower, though. Cure saves the base. He loses a lot of units, but I don't mind the trade out here all too much. 12 Corruptors on the production tab now, too. Keep in mind that, of course, we had a quick Spire. Normally, at this stage in the game, unupgraded Corruptors come out, but these are going to be at +2, +1 by the time that they will fight. Not so bad. It's going to be quite scary here for the Medevacs, but especially for the Liberators. It seems to me that the strat right here for SHIN is just to rinse and repeat. Yeah, we want to keep throwing resources at the problem. He does not want to carry this game on for too much longer, or at the very least he wants to keep the Terran player small. Pushing up towards a fortified Terran position yet again, though. Is there enough for the Zerg to break in? Now the Planetary Fortress does finish up. Ghosts are trying their best to snipe, but they get blown up by a bunch of units. Corruptors in the meantime, by the way, with Caustic Spray. They did snipe the base, and while that was costly, and maybe a few more Zerg units will go down. No. Not that many anyways. It is going to be a kill on the base. Now, the resources lost is remarkably positive here for SHIN, who's sitting on 88 workers, going up to 90. If you look at the income advantage, this is what the Muta opener really brought him. He got such a big income advantage because of it. Looks like the Mutas get to share the control group right now, though, with the Corruptors and the Overseers, too. Yeah, and SHIN is just gonna rinse and repeat. I wonder if this is gonna fall flat on its face at some point, though, because this is still a difficult spot to push into. Base in the far bottom left is taken. Look at the mini-map, by the way. SHIN is just taking everything now. Is there enough for the Zerg to keep blowing up this high ground? Because he believes that he does have once more what it takes. Orbital Command this time around, so at least it can be lifted. We see all of the Corruptors are working away at the Liberators as the Ultras are breaking into the natural expansion. Not quite enough HP to really break through reliably, but already so much damage has been done. And SHIN immediately remaxes again. This Orbital Command is going to have to get on out of there. More Overseers coming up. More and more drones are mining. I mean, this is basically what I imagine the lore writers of StarCraft wrote about back in the 90s when they first cooked up the concept of StarCraft 2, you know? Like, this must be a very lore-accurate way to play the Swarm. We have a bunch of humans trying their absolute best to stay alive, but the amount of stuff that Zerg is able to throw out there is insane. Now we're going to use even more mobility with Overlord Cocoons morphed in on the right side of the map. Fully upgraded Zerglings are going to be dropped into the main base, and that's going to make the game so much harder. I'm starting to get nerd chills here. SHIN is just playing this absolutely brilliantly. I'm still a little bit afraid that it's going to go wrong, but he's got so many resources that he can kind of keep this going for a while longer. It looks like now that we, see that his base is properly turtled up, he decides to cycle towards the third. Zergling drop in the meantime has arrived in the main base, and those Lings do not mess around with full upgrades. Orbital Command over here is going to be lifted. We do see the Zerg trying to break through. A bunch of SCVs die. Corruptors are working away whatever they can. We have one Infestor underground as well. Somehow it has not been detected by anything. 12 SCVs die. It's been costly. And while, again, it's a cleanup here for Cure, and while, again, it's not going to be a very efficient style for the Zerg, he's going to be able to rinse and repeat this. He's now effectively doubling his opponent's worker count, and, well, for every minute that goes by, SHIN is getting a roughly, I want to say, 2,000 resource additional to his opponent, so he just gets so much money. So he has resources to throw away. The minimap is kind of insane, actually. Drones are even being transferred now to some of those outer bases. What a game here from SHIN. Still, though, what Cure is aiming for is a death ball. And while it's difficult for him to get there, he's almost arrived. And while SHIN does have a lot of resources, it's also nothing really to write home about. If you look at the army value here in the top left, that's the total cost of the armies combined. I mean, it's a huge force. Oh, there's the fungal growth, though, and that's going to open the door for the Meylings. Not quite. Not quite. Cure does drop down about 70 supply there in an eye blink, but he holds yet again. It's a very substantial resource lost difference, right? And yeah, he's not going to be happy about that one. That's crazy, man. Having a base right over there is not what you want to see from the Zerg. Kurdas wants to be left alone. Just for a minute or two. He's not asking for much. All he really wants is to relax so he can breathe and build up an army. Command Center tried to land over here in the bottom left-hand corner. Not going to happen, though, because there's already a hatchery here for a while and even a queen injecting it. Leave Brenda alone! No! By the way, the real Brenda, she never pooped. Maybe she constipated. I don't know. Where is she? I don't know. She's probably been running around. Yeah, she does look a little constipated, I guess. It's okay. It happens. It happens. Well, maybe Cure does get what he was hoping for. It looks like SHIN has decided to, well, calm things down for just a bit. It's only going to be a very short amount of time, though. Because I saw more drop alerts. Yep, that's 5 of them in total. And the problem here for the Terran now is that there's very little money remaining. Bungle? There's very little resources remaining in the mineral lines that he does have secured. So, Cure needs to push out onto the map and secure another base. And I think that's the new strategy here. Ooh. That's the new strategy here for the Zerg. The plan was to originally overwhelm them. Didn't work. New plan is to bleed them out. Main base is already very dry. Natural expansion fully mined out. 3rd and 4th. Yep, not much remaining. And that means that Cure is gonna dip even further down in the income. So, since SHIN has so many more resources to gather, all he needs to do is buy time. Deny expansions, buy time, maybe send in a little drop like that. I don't mind it. But for the most part, this is looking desperate now for Cure. Despite having a really good army, and despite maybe even being able to win the main fight, there will just be so many more Zerg reinforcements. Beautiful game by SHIN. Really needs to be said. Yeah, no, it's gonna be tough, man. Taking any of these bases, I don't see it happening. These upgraded Corruptors really put in a lot of work, and that's another orbital command down the drain. There's a lot of Widow Mines here, so maybe if they can get a juicy hit, it might just be what the Terran is looking for, but relying on RNG is never ideal. More and more Ghosts in the main base. Ghosts, by the way, used to counter Zerglings now. You love to see that too. Or not, I don't know. Starting to think Ghosts are pretty good, guys. They're still pretty nice. One problem, though, is that they're expensive. Yeah, and these Zerglings are basically free. SHIN now has a bank of roughly 10,000 resources, whereas Cure is unable to even max out. Now, for what it's worth, he would have been maxed out on the previous patch with the amount of ghosts that he's got. So maybe we shouldn't underestimate the army, but... Yeah, and I think what we're witnessing here is a Terran with a very slow death animation. Oh. We're popping the balloons. Happy birthday, Cure. Congrats, you get a few overlords, I get a base, says SHIN. Banelings are rolling through to the high ground yet again. SHIN does need to actually make some new overlords, decides to build 13 of them. If he knew, this would be the perfect time to strike. No, stop, dude. SHIN actually just wasted 2,500 resources. That's a lot. He's made so many overlords. I mean, that's one way to try and throw the game. But I don't think it really matters, because even with 2,500 minerals left, or less, rather, SHIN is still just in such a good spot. That's when you know the game has become very difficult for the Terran. When a few thousand minerals more or less is completely irrelevant for the opponent. Now, like I said, there was that infamous game that SHIN played against Maru in the same tournament. Different iteration of it, but still on the same map. And that turned out to be a gigantic throw. It's important here for SHIN to not keep that in the back of his mind for too long. Because, yeah, if you're thinking about such things whilst playing the game, I mean, this would be the loss of a lifetime, though. I think at that point, SHIN probably would leave the venue and never come back. Just forfeit the rest of the series. Because that would be heartbreaking. By the way, some of the extra overseers did get, or some of the extra overlords rather, did get morphed into overseers. Nah, at this point, it is for all intents and purposes already game over. The only thing that really waits for it is Cura himself. He obviously knows, right, that this is practically an unwinnable spot. But hey, tapping out when you have a very strong army fully upgraded? Yeah, can't blame him too much either. May as well try. There's always the chance. Albeit a very small one. There's always the chance that the opponent messes up somehow. "11 drones do fall to a handful of Marines and a medevac. Another command center is going to finish up. I don't even know where Kier got the money for another command center. That's kind of nuts. Probably would be more reliable to fly... Hey. It's a Zerg force field. He actually dropped a whole lot of little changelings on the ramp and then held position on them. That's awkward. Kier has not yet picked up on it. He probably assumes that those Marines are his. Rinse and repeat. Yet again. Pushing into the choke point, though, up a high ground, it doesn't feel optimal. It is going to take probably about a half hour for Cure to fully max out, so about a half hour of in-game time. But I think, strategically speaking, it's the right choice here for SHIN to just sit and not really put too much emphasis on attacking the opponent here. Just sit back and notice when they try to expand. Notice if they try to take that base. Notice if they try to take the expansion on the right. Then you strike when there's no units nearby. Or you can just go right now. There is one infestor that somehow sharked through everything. We do see Lings and Banes moving up to the high ground here to really try and see if we can set off the mines. And apparently SHIN does decide to pull the trigger. What about the infestor, though? Oy, oy, oy. So many of the overseers actually leading the charge, too. And this is SHIN effectively saying, get out of my game. We are no longer doing this. This is a best-of-5 series. You've been dead since, like, minute 15. I will force you out if you're not going to leave. It's a little bit risky, but with the bank as big as it is, there's basically no shot for the Terran player to hold this one right now. Ultras are breaking through, and while maybe Cure can stop this army, there is about a 0% chance he's going to be able to stop the reinforcements. Look at the income, by the way, here for Cure. He's literally not mining any minerals anymore. He's getting a little bit of gas. I mean, the main bottleneck here for SHIN at the moment is the amount of larva that he's got. It's a little bit of an unlucky resource to be troubled by, but hey, I think this will be enough to seal the deal. We have about, I don't know, 200 Zerglings, about 100 Banes. That's going to be enough to force the Terran out of the game. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Toka Mech. Cure, giving his opponent a little bit too much freedom. He paid the price for it immediately. Now, I did fast forward through the first couple of minutes of the game. Mostly because everything was very normal. Neither SHIN nor Cure really mixing it up all too much, as is to be expected. We do have a little bit of variety here. Yeah, link speed starts up now. But none of this is too crazy, and none of it is really something that Cure is not going to be play around. So, or not going to be able to play around, rather. We have a good old command center on the low ground. Factory inside of the main base, too. Second gas guys are all ready, so I have to keep an eye out on exactly what the follow-up is going to be. Ooh. Okay. He wanted to dive deep into the base to see if there was a roach warren or maybe even a baneling nest hiding. We've even seen some of the Zerg players go for a ridiculously fast lair, and considering the fact that SHIN has not yet popped down a third hatchery, that maybe once more here what SHIN is looking at. In the meantime, by the way, there it is. We do have a starport as well on the back of this for Cure. So this is a starport before the third command center. So because of the fact that SHIN is delaying his third base, Cure has decided to delay his own as well. It's like a reverse gentleman's agreement, where for years everybody was just giving each other 3 bases to start the game off with. It's like a weird StarCraft equivalent of like a 5 minutes no rush. You don't attack me, I don't attack you. But apparently now with Zergs favoring the lair so much, at the very least SHIN really enjoying the Muta so much, well, it's also forcing Terran to change their strategy a little bit. Hellion Banshee for now. I actually thought that Cure dealt with the Mutas very nicely, though, in that previous game. Getting the cancel on the opponent's hedge as well on the right side was also really good. But SHIN decided to be very greedy on the back of it, and Cure never really got a whole lot done. Hydra then, though, this time around. So, super quick lair. All the gas is taken, but then straight Hydras. No Baneling Nest, double Evo on the back of this. This is a build order that I am not familiar with. I have not seen this in many years. Okay, we're doing a Hydralisk rush. Very popular in StarCraft 1, not so much in StarCraft 2. Hellions are going to try and see if they can maybe get some work done. It's kind of crazy, actually, to jump into a base. Yeah, when there's only 2 bases for the Zerg, really. I mean, we have a third hatch over here, but it's not mining yet. When there's only a handful of bases available at the moment, it's a crazy time to be diving in with Hellions into the base, but maybe he should have stuck around for a little bit longer so he would see the Hydras. Now, honestly, if I was Cure here and I would see the Hydras, I would be none the wiser. Like, this just is weird. He's researching Missile, by the way. It's an indicator he wants to double down on Hydras and then some. Probably go into Lurkers, but it's a little bit odd. Is this a Hydralisk timing attack? Like, I'm wondering, right, whether or not we're pushing across the map with 1-1 and Hydra speed. Kira's gonna see it right now for the first time. Hydra's chasing down cloaked Banshees. I haven't seen this in years. It's honestly very weird. Links are still going to be a necessity over at the third, but SHIN not using the all army hotkey. We have drone production still here for the Zerg as well, so it kind of looks like these upgrades are gonna line up. But if you want to play Hydras and you want to play a big eco game as the Zerg, shouldn't you go for the third hatchery first? It's a weird way in getting there, because I think you could basically do the same thing with a very similar result, but then with a larger amount of income. Maybe he's taking a page out of Hero's book. Who's been taking a page out of Maru's book? Who's been taking a... Okay, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. A lot of the Korean top-level pros have been mixing and matching it up a little bit. Going for seemingly suboptimal strategies, but then still making it work. And I think in this instance, I mean, Cure could have easily gotten away with a triple command center build. But he didn't, right? Like, he decided to go for straight 1-1-1. And that will be something that SHIN has picked up on right now, too, judging by the fact that the Banshees, the cloaked Banshees, showed up at the, well, a timing that only makes sense and only lines up with the straight 1-1-1 opener. So Baneling speed coming up here, too. +2/+2 is really early. It's a little bit weird. We also do not have an infestation pit, meaning that we can't go hive, so he will be stuck at 2-2. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an infestation pit right about right now, together with, like, I don't know, like a lurker den? We do have a little Ling run by the way, getting a bit of work done. I think Cure is also wondering what in the world he's playing against. He's using his main army right now for scouting. Second factory coming up, though, at the front. Fourth command center will probably not be too far behind. But he is going to test the waters now with the units that he's got. He never fired up +2/+2, which needs to be done soon. He's got the resources, but at least the gas. Bailing speed is seconds away from done, though, which is pretty much all he really needs. Cheeky little bailing roll by over here, too. There's the +2 fired up, by the way. Yeah, Cure decides that he wants to attack, but then he realizes it's going to be tough. What about the bailing roll by? Okay. Crisis management still decent enough. If only he was about a second sooner. So are we going to go for an all-out attack with 2/2 Shin? Is this basically our Lair Tech timing with Hydra Bane and then some leftover Zerglings? Considering we're going Hydra Ling Bane, though, wouldn't it have been better to go +2 and then into like a... Or sorry, +1 and then into a +1 melee? Start transitioning into that? Because very little of the actual damage output here of the Zerg army comes from the Hydras. It's mostly the Lings and the Banes. You can see, though, that Cure is also a little bit indecisive. He wants to go for an attack, because normally you go for an attack. In this instance, it's not happening yet. He also never went for a 4th command center, while still being on just 5 Rexes, so he kind of has to make up his mind as far as that goes. Oddball of a build here from Shin. Now we go Hive. Now we go +1 melee, and now we put the second Evo Chamber on idle. Yeah, this looks like a really strong Diamond League build order here from Shin. Which is exactly how I talk about hero strategies. This seems incredibly suboptimal to me. Kira's gonna try and see if he can get some damage in. Pushing the top left, not going to happen. And Kier does have his tank over there in a good spot. I quite like it. Decides to back up. He's got a bit of a multi-layered. He's got like a lasagna of siege tanks here. A tiramisu of siege tanks. And by the way, we're going into a 4th command center, whilst at the same time also building up the additional barracks too. So rather than choosing, he decided to get both, but he delayed them. Now he's trying to create a chokehold on his base. The dance here is a bit funky. Normally there's like a Viper or 2 available. So with Vipers you can blinding cloud the siege tanks. Yeah, they're coming now, but it's also late. Lasagna and then tiramisu. How about that? Sounds good to me, dude. Very calorie heavy, but you know what? Hashtag winter bulk. Let's get it going. Okay, here we go. Speaking of letting things go, though. Ooh, a bunch of Marines end up dying there at the front. There is a Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map. I think Shin could have done this exact same strategy, but then significantly more optimized. Maybe the original plan was to go for some sort of timing attack, and since that didn't happen, he had to come up with a way to wiggle his way out of it, but I like this spot way better for Cure now. Still, blinding clouds are available, and they are going to be disabling a bunch of the tanks. We have a bunch of Banelings too, though, rolling into the siege tanks, but this is still so much Zerg. Shin is going to be able to overwhelm it. But he already did lose a base, and he's only got 72 workers right now. +3/+3, by the way, coming here for the for the Zerg player too. Once again, prioritizing Hydras. Loads of Vipers, by the way. How many do we make? Yeah, he just lost the 2, but he's making 4 more. So why not go Lurkers here? We're going Adrenal Glands instead, which is going to be for the Zerglings, of course. Really nice to have, but difficult to get value out of. If you compare this, right, to what we saw from Shin in the previous game, there's no creep. He's kind of stuck in his starting area. He hasn't really been able to make much of a move. And while Cure is moving around relatively indecisively, it's going just fine here for Terran, who's just about to finish 3-3 as well, by the way. Remember how his +2/+2 was way later than the Zerg's? Well, now he's going to finish up 3-3 before the Zerg will finish theirs on the other side of the map. So, bit of a mess. The standard is the standard for a reason. The meta exists because of many years of testing. Let's see, though. There's so many blinding clouds available, and I guess if you can just reduce the entire Terran's army to 0 ranged, it's not so bad. One Viper ended up going down. The pre-splitting, though, on the tanks was wonderful. Yeah, that may actually save Cure here. He anticipated that move. Ooh, Banelings, good splitties. Reinforcing links, though, are showing up. SHIN does hold. In the meantime, though, the Terran's reinforcements have moved on over towards the right side of the map. 5th Command Center in the meantime, too. Moving into position. Ghost Academy, additional command centers added into the mix. What else could SHIN be going for here? I mean, you can always add on infestors for fungal growth. I think this is where Blizzard intended on Microbial Shroud being useful, but it's proven to be kind of pointless. More blinding clouds it is. In the meantime, though, the rest of the Terran army is pushing into the natural, but a lot of reinforcements for the Zergs are showing up. Still, Hydras themselves, even fully upgraded, don't seem to do that much. This is looking like an all-army hotkey, though. Back to the natural expansion. SHIN wants to keep this base alive for obvious reasons. And I think Cure is progressing quite nicely here. Still, though, loads of Banelings coming. Now the Zerg army is nearby. A lot of the units are overstimmed as well. Medevacs have been dropping for a while already. SHIN suddenly appears now with loads of abductions, too. That's like 4 Medevacs down the drain. Wait a second. Dude, I feel very similar to this, or with this type of game, to me watching any of the hero matches lately. It's uncomfortable, it's weird, it doesn't feel like it really makes sense, but then they still end up working it out in the end, right? And you still get a victory anyways. So maybe it doesn't matter too much, but the ways in which SHIN is approaching this, it feels really weird to me. Planetary Fortress dies, though, and more Terran reinforcements also fall off. And I guess even though the lurkers could have literally been out like 8 minutes ago, we're going to get them a little bit later on than what we normally see. And you know what? If this was a normal progression from the Zerg, Cure would be expecting it. In this particular instance, do you really assume that there will suddenly be a bunch of lurkers knocking at your front door? Well, maybe it's not even needed, because here comes the swarm yet again. Blinding clouds being used on whatever wants to be hit by it. Nice splits, though, by the Terran, but he loses another orbital command because he's preoccupied. The Hydra's Frenzy ability allows him to close the distance yet again. And SHIN is breaking open the natural expansion of Cure. And while he doesn't have creep, and while he doesn't really have a ton of income, only 27 SCVs remain for Cure, who probably is scratching his head as well right here and wondering where in the world it all went wrong. Is Zerg just overpowered? Does Blizzard need to step in and nerf it all? Bunch of spine crawlers in the top left. Bunch of Zerglings in the top right. Or bottom right, rather. They came from the top right. And now the lurkers are coming in. Now, we do have some ghosts. Ghosts are, of course, really good with their snipies. The problem is, SHIN is going to be at 93 drones versus 29 SCVs. Okay, 31. Okay, 34. But still, the outcome difference here is, yeah, similar to what we had in the previous game. And this is a much easier map to play on, I think, for Zerg than Botanical. Do we not go, SHIN? Like, are we really gonna give the opponent this much wiggle room now? I wonder if he even realizes it, because this game really hasn't been going that well for him until those last couple of fights. But maybe he missed the amount of SCVs that he killed, because he did kill 53 of them in total, most of them in that previous fight. But this is still a well-turtled up Terran, but Cure is making himself appear way bigger than he actually is. Nidus Worm in the main base would be kind of amazing. Yes, I like this. Right when I looked at it, thank you, SHIN, for making me look smart. That's my entire goal in life. Not to be smart, but to appear what, you know, looks like a smart person. That's what I need. That way people will hit the like button on my YouTube videos and the algorithm will promote it and whatnot, and maybe we can grow StarCraft 2 in 2026. Right? That's what we need. We need to appear intelligent, not actually be intelligent. More and more Nidus is coming up. Nidai. Niduses. More and more Nidusi being made. And this is annoying, though. Because it takes forever for Terran to try and break this open. It's especially annoying, though, when there's also an attack in the meantime, which SHIN apparently chooses not to go for. Nidus Worm in the main base. One cheeky little marauder that just popped out of the barracks, done with basic training, immediately has to use the combat drugs to move through. Cure is doing a good job, by the way, stabilizing out of this very weird spot. Making more command centers now, getting the personal cloaking for the ghosts. And what was looking like a Terran loss, after it was looking like a Terran win, may now be going into a very even spot yet again. I mean, this is still... I prefer this significantly here for SHIN, but I don't think SHIN is quite realizing or recognizing the spot that he has driven this game into. Like, he basically had his opponent dead in the water. But then he decided, you know what? Let's chill. Let us rinse and repeat, just like what we did in the previous game. A couple of SCVs apparently got crushed here by the rocks coming down. Greater Spire coming up, though, for the Zerg, who's basically getting every little bit of tech other than Ultras. Brute Lords are always nice to have. And after crushing the rocks, he's breaking the rocks himself open again, so he can start harassing the actual SCV line. It's funny how SHIN has suddenly gone for like a full conservative approach. I guess he doesn't really feel the need to be too aggressive and to close it out, but he is giving his opponent another chance to max. And you know what? Cure is using it to try and transition towards what looks like Terran Mech. Are we gonna go Ghost Mech from here? Really? Good snipes. We do have another Nidus in the main. Cure did not quite see it. Yeah, now he hears it. Well, it's still okay. Yeah. Not too shabby. And yet again, SHIN is gobbling up as much of the map as he can. Taking up all of the open bases, both the bottom right as well as the one right over here on the left. And I guess we tried to now do the same thing as what he won the game with in the first map of the series. A slow bleed out. Is this actually good though for Zerg? When Terran was previously at like 27 workers or so, if I recall correctly, versus a Zerg at 80 plus. When Terran was previously stuck on like 2 bases, giving Cure this much leeway to get back into it seems like a mistake in my book. And we'll have to see if SHIN is gonna pay the price for it. Right now, Cure has overtaken him in the supply count. Blue Flame upgrade coming up. +3 Mechanical coming up here as well. Additional command centers are going to finish up, and that means that Cure doesn't really need that many SCVs anymore. Once these are done, Because he can drop mules from the high heaven and keep scanning left, right, and center. He's got to return the favor here. Everything gets crushed. 3 drones go down, Nidus Worm dies, and a few of those mineral fields will permanently disappear. Second Spire coming now for SHIN, who will be ready for a full Brute Lord transition, if that's what it takes. Blinding Cloud here yet again. I think Cure is also, by the way, very surprised by this passivity here of the Zerg. Basically has been given a free card to now create the ultimate Death Bowl. So this is going to be what is looking like Ghost Mech. So any Lost Marine and Marauder is now going to be replaced in the supply count with, yeah, siege tanks, maybe Thors, a bunch of Blue Flame Hellbats, that sort of thing. And that is an army that's really scary. In the meantime, though, it looks to me like SHIN is maybe even preparing for like a Brute Lord Infestor late game transition. Another very sustainable army, but again, one that I feel like was kind of unnecessary. Either way, those decisions have been made now. And it's too hard to go back to it. Now it's up to the Terran to try and create a chokehold on this base. Siege tanks try to move into position. Keep in mind that with the latest patch, you can no longer abduct sieged up tanks. Little Zergling run by, heading on over towards the natural, it seems. A lot of the links do get blasted apart before it even really makes it into the base, but that's still 4 or so tanks here dying. Oh, ooh, that bio army too deep. Yeah, too deep into that corner. Couldn't quite control all of it. It's a bit messy. I think Cure is still going to be able to get this base down. Yeah, Cure will still take a new base. The drones are escaping through the network. Corruptors are going to be the next step in SHIN's master plan, but I wonder if the master plan is that good. Suddenly, Cure is leading the supply count very reliably, and he's gonna get a brand new mineral line. I mean, it smells of drone. Yeah, it smells like Zerg. It's like a wet dog smell, I'm sure. It's not nice, but anyways, it's better than nothing. Now the Brute Lord transition, though, is coming. Apparently, Cure has had a taste for blood. He wants to move onwards as well. Moves up to the next base. 15 Brute Lords, all at the same time. Did I get scanned? Wait, did I just somehow survive 2 scans? That's crazy. One scan led to, like, right over there. The other scan to right over here. Oh, no. Cure doesn't see. Cure is wondering if this is what he's playing against, but he doesn't know for certain. Okay, he still decides to just go for the safety Thors. Now, I think you can solve the Thor problem with more Brute Lords. Yeah. 15 Brute Lords is a lot. Suddenly, we have a full Sky Zerg. Now the scan reveals it. And Cure immediately makes a beeline back home. There's about a million changelings here being a nuisance. I don't think SHIN is going to leave the creep behind. He did, by the way, take this base over here. But suddenly, this has turned into a split map. Look at the situation we're in. How is this possible? We had a Zerg overwhelming the natural expansion with an economy that was like 3 times as big as the opponents. How in the world are we here? Like 10 minutes later. Props to Cure here for actually wiggling his way out of it. High-sec auto-tracking only just now coming up. One big mistake actually for Terran is that he only has a single armory getting those mechanical upgrades. We've had double Spire for a bit, so SHIN is actually going to be able to upgrade 2 of them at a time. It does make a big difference in these late-game scenarios. Okay. More brutes! More brutes and 17... Never mind. 17 spore crawlers that he then cancels all at the same time to go to 215 supply. What is it, 2011? This is what players used to do. I mean, it's an awfully big Zerg army, though. Keep in mind that Brute Lords are buffed since the latest patch. They're far more reliable. It's a very cinematic fight, I'll give him that. And I don't think the Thor, so the Thors used to counter Brute Lords. Not anymore. He's purposefully sieging up the Overseers, by the way, to blur the battlefield even more, making it difficult for us, but also for the opponent to see exactly what's going on. And SHIN just broke through this. He's remaxing here with a load of Corruptors. Yeah, the only real threat, I guess, would be like a Viking transition. What a fight. Crazy stuff. I think SHIN has actually been, like, even though I'm questioning the way in which he's getting there, but I think he's been basically in control the entire way through. I don't think this was necessary. I think he could have won this game 15 minutes ago. But maybe he wanted his opponent to bleed. Maybe there's some sort of unsettled business between these two, man. Because this is played at an offline venue. Right? Like, you can look your opponent in the eye while playing. It's not really the time to be taking ridiculous risks, usually. Now, Kura's decided that he can indeed no longer take on the main army of the Zerg, but what he can do is run circles around it. Brute Lords cannot go into Worm. So it's going to be quite difficult for the Zerg to actually win a base race. Still, I mean, Zerg is everywhere, right? We have the Nidus Worm over here now unloading. That base that was previously mined by the Terran, or at least attempted to be mined by the Terran, is now going to be taken by the Zerg. Now, while Kura is moving around this side of the map, and he's trying his best to squeeze out an army that's going to be able to beat this, I don't think this army is beatable by the Zerg or by the Terran right now. What a game from SHIN. Look at this. I think SHIN is doing the impossible. I think SHIN, right? Get this. I think SHIN is playing the game and having fun while doing it. What? Playing video games for fun in 2026? Is that even allowed? Yeah, he's cruising. Absolute domination. Like, it's not about winning, it's about destroying the character of the opponent. It's not about winning, it's about sending them a message. Sure, sure! He just neural parasited a ghost and then EMP'd the other ghosts. Fungal Growth's here as well. Banelings are now starting to roll through. We get some blinding clouds too. 645 average actions per minute for SHIN in this game. He's covering his opponent's army yet again with Overseers. Absolute cinema here from SHIN. What a beast. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Mothership. Now, SHIN has been clowning on his opponent so far. I'm sure he's well aware of the fact that Cure has got a really good Terran versus Zerg over the last year or so, but he's not been allowed to show it. I will say, though, that Cure seemed a bit indecisive in that previous match. When the Hydra Ling army first went across the map, you could pretty much see his army think. Now, of course, that's the worst thing you can ever do to any StarCraft player, making them think while playing the game. It's horrible. StarCraft players hate that sort of thing. Small-brained individuals is what we are. Everybody knows that. Anyway. Yeah, Cure probably could have sniped some of the outer bases more confidently. At least I don't think we would have seen a move out like that from the likes of, say, Clem, or a move out like that from the likes of Maru. They sometimes, for better or for worse, will over-attack. Like, they will commit to a fight that they probably should have not committed to. But I think confidence, even if it's fake, in a game of StarCraft is very useful. Sending your army out and then sending it back and then sending it out a little bit again and then sending it back usually does not work. So I wonder if maybe SHIN has something spicy in mind yet again, you know? Like maybe he's going to do something a bit weird once more. Well, so far everything is very standard. It's a triple hatch opener with 1 drone in gas, link speed, so this is not going to be a very quick lair. Interestingly enough, this is not a triple command center 111, but a 2 command center 111. Maybe Cure expecting that once more we are going to be dealing with, well, say for example, a very quick lair. It does mean though the Cure is certainly the aggressor. He needs to do something. Cannot really allow the Zerg to just do whatever. Getting a queen kill would be a nice start. Ooh, could have body blocked the queen. Not going to happen. And with the additional ladies now showing up, he will be okay. Overlord Scout to the front. He will see the command center building at 4:30, and that's really all he needs to know. Still, though, it's nice to see the green light on inside of the tech lab, and I think SHIN is going to be able to see that. There we go. Green light in the tech lab means that something's researching, and it means that spore crawlers indeed are a necessity. Lair coming up as well at like 4:44 or 4:45. That's all extremely normal. So this is the most standard game so far that SHIN has played in this series. You can still go mute us, but it's much harder to pull off of this. I do expect a Baneling Nest. Baneling Nest double Evo, something. Yeah, there's the Baneling Nest, and then maybe like an Evo chamber or two. Maybe a 4th hatchery already, we'll have to see. Could just go straight into Hydras again too. But this is the tried and true strategy, right? The proven meta that Zerg players have been employing most of the time. Double engineering bay in the back of the natural expansion now for Cure. Who will have to fly this CC on over in just a moment. It does feel slow though, right? Like this is not really what we see most of the time from Terran anymore. A delayed 3rd command center like this really does feel really slow. Then again, it's a safe build. Not really any crazy weaknesses or anything like that. And if you're, well, losing the series 2-0, it might just be exactly what you need. Couple of Banshees going in, getting 1 kill. Can I snipe the 4th hatch? Maybe. Bailing speed coming here, though, for the Zerg. We have a little hit squad of Hellions still roaming around and shutting down the creep. Banshees over here get intercepted by the Queens, left, right, and center. And SHIN begins droning the 4th base. SHIN is just looking so comfortable. Hydra then. Do we go into an infestation pit from here and straight Hive? Like, do we go Ultras? He can go Lurkers, he can go Ultras. He can stick around at Hatchery and Lair Tech as well and just flood the map with Hydraling Bane. Honestly, at this point, SHIN can do whatever he likes. Because the Baneling speed here is still, like, it's not the fastest possible Baneling speed, but it's still early enough. It's going to be pretty much impossible for SHIN to really deal real damage. I mean, he can test the waters here, and he will do so. He's got combat shields and Stimpack and all the rest. No, actually, he does not. Wait! Whoa, 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 whoa! He didn't get combat shields. Oh, no. Cure, we need to get that going. Combat shields is a very important upgrade. Not the time to be skipping out on such things. Could have certainly had it. Could have at the very least started it. You might notice that the visual of the Marine here does not have the combat shields, and it means that all these units just die 10 HP quicker. Massively problematic here for Cure. This attack is gonna fall flat on its face. And now SHIN is left to do whatever he pleases. Oh no, he fires up 2-2 before combat shields. You know what? Punishing the opponent in that previous game. Giving him a potential chance back, but then completely destroying him. Maybe it has had an effect. Combat shield starts now, but it's a little later than you want it. And it means that all of these attacks are just not going to be that effective. I bet you these two shook hands as well before the game started. And like SHIN did the thing where he squeezed a little too hard. Yeah, he's probably one of those guys. Yeah, you know what? That's the vibe I'm getting at the very least. Like an uncle that you see twice a year. For some reason. Why did they always have to squeeze so freaking hard, man? Completely unnecessary. Yeah, there's still no combat shields, guys. That means that even the Zerglings are effective. You don't need Banelings now to really deal with all of this. It makes the defense pretty straightforward. It's got to finish eventually, but already a lot of the damage has been done. Actually, only 11 Marines have died, but any sort of attacking has been shut down. So even though it's only a relatively small amount of losses, not ideal. Okay, so we're settling with a good old 8 Rex and 4 command centers here. Maybe they don't shake hands anymore, I don't know. Here's the attack coming in though for Cure. But reinforcing Terran units get picked up in the middle of the map, and SHIN decides to collapse on his army off creep. That's how confident he is, and you know what? It is pretty much the perfect fight. We're still at Lair, by the way. Still no Hive. He takes one of the alternative main bases. Yeah, and Cure has just been utterly destroyed here. I'm sorry, I don't generally cast very one-sided series. Even though it's a best of 5 that's been going on for like what feels like an hour plus. Actually, it is an hour plus. We had like 2 30-minute games. It's weird because across the board, I feel like Cure has never really had a moment where he stood much of a chance. Obviously, there have been a few fights that worked out well for him, but in a way, it's kind of felt like SHIN has been toying with his food this entire best of 5 long. This is the most normal build. It's just Hydroling Bane, opened up in the most standard way possible. Cure, though, handicapping himself, right? With the forgetting of the combat shields and probably some miss macro here and there as well. Look at the amount of gas that he's got right now compared to the minerals. Like, there is more going on than just the combat shields. And, I think what we're witnessing now is a Terran player processing the loss. Do we have any APM? Yeah, we're still playing. Sometimes we see the Terran's APM at this point dip down to 0. AKA, they've already left. Not quite the case. Cure is gonna give SHIN the satisfaction of the victory, it seems, as the next wave of the swarm is coming through. 42 SCVs to fall back on. And there's the Banelings. There's about 42 of those as well. Roll, roll, roll your Banes gently down their base. I mean, this is hella expensive for SHIN. Oh, he doesn't need to do this, but he knows he's got the resources, and he may as well use them for their intended purpose. What a series here from SHIN. Kind of crazy. I've seen a lot of Zerg players, especially SHIN. Again, I've casted a lot of series featuring SHIN going up against Maru, and he is struggling in this matchup, it seems, at least against somebody like Maru. And then Cure, who's in my mind, maybe not quite at Maru's level, but he's like 98% of the way there. It seems like Cure just looked like an absolute rollover for SHIN. Maybe he's allowed to have a day off. Now, fun fact, I just spoiled myself looking at the tournament bracket. It turns out that SHIN's next opponent in this tournament is Maru. And he's on like a, I don't know, 20-plus series losing streak. We'll have to check that one out too.